Our Mackenzie Gray is following the testimony for us from Ottawa. Mackenzie.
Jeff, Google and Apple are the latest tech giants calling out the Liberal government for a proposed new law that could allow police to access personal metadata that they say will put Canadians' personal information at risk.
When you build a backdoor into an encrypted device, anyone can walk through. And because so much depends on encryption, we can't take that risk.
A risk to things like Canadians' iCloud accounts that Apple warns would be easier to hack if the new law is passed. Concerns that led popular messaging app Signal and VPN provider Proton to threaten to close Canadian services.
Canada already has an effective, transparent system where law enforcement can apply to the courts for reasonable assistance orders subject to judicial oversight.
But those laws aren't good enough, according to the Liberals, who are now proposing to force telecom companies to retain metadata of all their users, not just people suspected of committing a crime, including transmission information, for up to a year. Which companies this would apply to isn't clear, since the bill calls for the Public Safety Minister to create regulations after it becomes a law, one of many cabinet-level powers.
This could give the government the power to secretly force companies to redesign products to include invasive surveillance capabilities, and to do so without sufficient safeguards or oversight.
The Liberals maintain any information would only be given to police after a judicial process and wouldn't include things like emails and search history.
What my focus is to make sure that we actually catch up to the rest of our partners, particularly Five Eyes countries who have a lawful access regime.
This is the Liberals' second crack at a so-called lawful access bill, the first attempt last summer, but eventually shelved after substantial backlash. But with a majority government, they could push things through despite Conservative opposition.
I have very serious reservations about how quickly this process is going when we're not being given the adequate information and evidence.
The new bill does have substantial changes. Originally, police were allowed to gain warrantless access to metadata from any company or person that provided a service. But even then, the Privacy Commissioner is now calling for multiple additional amendments.
The longer you keep information, the more there's a risk in terms of privacy breach.
If this bill passes, it puts European companies that operate in Canada in a challenging position, Jeff, after European Union courts have deemed the blanket holding of users' metadata is illegal.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thank you, Mac.